Hey nail sisters, welcome if you're new here or welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to share with you some products that I wanted to try out and also giving you some information in regards to purchasing products as well and what to look out for. So here I'm starting back, pushing back my cuticles, and what I'm showing here is how you hold that cuticle pusher is very important. You don't want to be pressing on your actual nail as when your nail grows out, it can cause grooves and dips to actually grow out when your nail does do that. So what you want to do is focus on pushing back the actual skin, and I also like to lift up the skin, that way I can get underneath the dead skin that sits underneath the living skin. And I'm making sure, like I said, to focus on the actual cuticle and not putting pressure on the nail plate. So I am going in circular motion, making sure to also catch the corners as well. This does give me more surface area when I get ready to apply the product. The next thing I'm doing is going in with my cuticle medium bit, and this is to go underneath the cuticle so that I can clean all that out, and it does help prevent lifting. Now you also want to make sure that your speed is not up too high. Make sure I'm at about 3 RPMs. You can go up to 4 as well, and I'm using very light pressure, not too rough or anything like that. Both of these bits will cut, so make sure that you are careful. Next, I'm going in with this cuticle medium ball bit, and I am going to remove any excess dead cuticle skin that is still hanging or anything like that. And anything dead is going to be like clear, tan. So those are what you want to remove. Here I'm showing I'm going to use my cuticle nipper. Now what I want to show here is that you don't want to pull that skin. I see people, using these nippers and they're pulling the skin, and a lot of times the living skin is attached to that dead skin, and if you're pulling that, you can cause that living skin to be pulled as well. I'm also showing here how you want to get comfortable with holding your cuticle nipper. Hold it how it feels the most comfortable to you and not how someone else is holding it. So next I'm showing here how I like to feel for that cuticle. So get comfortable with that cuticle, get to know the cuticle, say hey to the cuticle. So you want to feel for it. And then I also like to use my actual cuticle nippers to feel for it some more, so that I make sure I have a clear vision of what I need to actually take away. You don't want to be nipping and you don't know what you are actually taking away. You can cut yourself and cause yourself to bleed. So if you don't feel comfortable using the nippers, you don't have to, but it does make all the difference when it comes to lifting, and also, like I said, giving you more surface area to apply the product. Some people don't even need to use the nippers. You can definitely, definitely use just the cuticle bits and be able to still take away that dead skin. Some fingers like mine's, my thumb, I do need it, but on the thumb, I don't need it. And then some of the other ones, I do need it. So the way that I think about removing this excess skin is, I think of it similar to like chicken, for example. On the chicken, it has like that excess fat on there. So we're basically removing that dead excess. I don't want to say fat because it's not, but it's like dead skin. So that's kind of how I think of it. And I am going to move my finger and this nipper in different directions, but I don't want to be pointing that cuticle point so close, to where I'm getting ready to stab it. Also, another thing that I can say is, some people are like intimidated and afraid of it, but get comfortable with it. You have to be able to get comfortable, because if you're scared, you can, like I said, easily nip yourself and cause yourself to bleed. So what I like to do is kind of, like I said, kind of make sure that I feel for that cuticle where it's actually visible, so I can be able to see what I'm actually going in with. And going back to the movement, like I'm actually gripping the dead skin. I'm not pulling it so hard. If you have to pull, that means that your nippers are too dull. So my nippers are very sharp. which is the reason why you have to be very extremely careful, because like I said, you can't cut yourself with these. So you can see how I'm going in there and I'm focusing on removing that dead skin, being extra careful not to remove any of the living skin. And like I said, I am doing a gripping motion more so than, you know, like just almost as if you're ripping. Like, you don't want to be doing that. This skin is very, very delicate and very thin. So you can see here how that surface is starting to look, where the cuticle is being removed. And I'm just gonna go back in the other areas where I see any still hanging or, you know, sitting there, especially like in the corners. Like I said, this is where most of the lifting can occur if you definitely don't remove that. So you can also see here how I'm turning my finger in the direction that I need to, again, being very extra careful. So you can see here how it is starting to look. And I'm also going back into any areas that I may have missed. You want to be sure to remove the cuticle in the same direction every single time. Have a consistent direction of how you remove it so it won't look uneven and jagged. Next, I'm going in with my medium sanding band, and I'm going to remove just the shine off the top layer of my natural nail plate, being very gentle. Again, this bit can cut as well, so you want to be very, very gentle. You don't want to be going too fast. You don't want to apply a lot of pressure. You want to be moving that bit so that it doesn't heat up very quickly, especially on the natural nail plate. I can't stress that enough. So here, my pinky, you can see I don't have much surface area on this natural nail plate. It is very narrow. So the way that I hold my e-file, I'm going to make sure that I have a good grip on this, because I don't want it to slip out my hand, because like I said, it's not much surface area. So I'm going very gentle, very slow. This is not a race. This is not a marathon. You know, we don't need to be in a rush to be going around the cuticle, especially the cuticle. Like when it comes to the cuticle, I'm taking my time. I'm slowing down. I'm making sure that I can see what I need to hit, you know. And like I said, again, you want to make sure that you move that bit, because you can cause heat in a certain area. You also don't want to be staying on that nail plate too long. You can easily remove so many layers really, really quickly and not even know it, you know. And then, like I said, going back to, you know, cutting somebody, like you can easily cut somebody if you don't know what you're, you know, doing or what you can't see. So make sure that you can visibly see what you're doing at all times. I am going to also, I like to also use this sanding band to push back my cuticles as well. So it's different options that you can push back your cuticles. You just have to find what you're the most comfortable with. So that's what I'm doing here. And also my speed is still at that 3 RPMs. Again, you don't need to be up fast. We're not trying to build a house or drill down cement, you know. So again, we're just only removing that top layer of shine. And this is so that the product can actually have something to bond and stick better with the products. Next, we're going in with this dehydrator. I am using the Protein Bond Young Nail Swipe, and I am using a nail brush going down the nail so that I can remove any of that dust that may be remain, and so that we can actually change the pH as well, pH level. And I didn't show, but I did go in with I am going to go in later on with a primer. Next, I'm showing here, I did want to try out this Betty Core soft gel tips. It does say it is ultra thin. Now, what I will say about these tips, they are right when they say they are very like ultra thin. I always mention, and I share with you all, that when it comes to tips, every single time you get tips, they're going to be different every single time. These are the ones that I'm going to use today, which are the medium square tips, and they are pre-shaped, and it does come like this. Now, they're not numbered. The number is kind of off, because I think like the 9 and the 8 are in the same box. So here I'm gonna show you what I mean when it comes to the tips. Now, I will say that when it comes to tips, think of tips similar to, there's so many different brands of shoes, right? So every time you go and you pick a shoe size, it's going to be different. It's going to fit different. You know, it may feel different. You know, it may look different. It may have different features to it. It's the same way with tips. But one thing about tips, you can definitely customize it. So like I mentioned before, you know, when it comes to tips, you may not be the same size in every single tips with the shape, the length, all of that matters. And one thing I will say about these Betty Core tips, I feel like they are very thin to me. I like to bend my tips to see how durable they are before even applying product. And I feel like they're way too thin, like around the like cuticle and the sidewalls, they bend way too easily to me. And then the next thing that I'm showing is this 3-in-1 solid nail gel. And with that, you can use that to apply like rhinestones. Now here I am also showing that it did come with this UV LED small lamp. One thing I will also mention, when it comes to any product that has something that says 3-in-1, and later I'm going to show you in a second where it says 8-in-1, I believe. When it has that on there, I always feel as though that you can't use a product for so many multiple things. And I'm going to show that in a second. I believe it is this one that I'm getting ready to show. Is this the 8-in-1? Yes. So no, actually this is the Rhinestone Gel. So this is the Rhinestone Gel. And what I do like about this is that it does have where it's in this container. So it does have like a squirt area where I'm able to use it very conveniently and easy and not make a mess with this. I do prefer these rhinestone gels that come in these bottles instead of the pot. I'm not too big of a fan of those because I do feel like they make a mess with these. I can easily use my dotting tool and get the right size that I need. So this did come with that as well. And I believe this one is the 8-in-1 gel. Now, this is what I was referring to. So anytime a product has an 8-in-1 gel, to me, I don't feel as though that you can use it for every single thing on here. Like it says, you can use it for a base coat, a nail glue, a nail strengthener, a nail builder, a rhinestone gel. Like that's way too much for a product to even perform. It's going to be breakdown somewhere, in my opinion. I feel like this, the consistency is probably, I would say, a light, very on the like a lighter end. It's not too thick. So I feel like with this gel, you could probably get away with using this as either a base coat or actually applying these tips. But that's about it. Like I don't necessarily feel as though you can use that for all those multiple things. I think it even say you can do designs as well when it comes to like blooming gel. But like I said, again, anytime a product that says 8-in-1, 10-in-1, 12-in-1, 20-in-1, it's not going to perform with all those things. It's just not. It's the makeup of chemistry when it comes to gel. It's too complicated and sophisticated for all of that. So I just wanted to give that information. So next I'm going in and I'm going to shape, and I'm going to also etch the inside of these tips. These tips do come pre-etched, but to me, I feel like on these tips in particular, the pre-etched ones, they feel too silky. The texture is more of a silkier texture, and to me, anything with slick is still going to lift to me. Next, I'm going in with a base coat before I actually apply these tips. I am using the base coat by Madam Glam. I do like the consistency of this, especially if you're applying some type of tip. You know, if you want structure, or you know, your nails to have something to, I don't want to necessarily say protect, but if you want to have something on your natural nail plate to allow the product to adhere better, I would say put a base coat, and this will help with the durability of your press-ons. Now next I'm going in and I'm applying this gel. Now when it comes to applying the gel, you do want to apply this where every nail is going to be different with the amount that you pick up. So you kind of have to eyeball, the amount. So for example, my thumb, I have more area or more nail plate on that. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more product, but I don't need a lot because it will flood the sides, and it's just basically wasting product. I am going to hold this down with enough pressure so that it won't create those air pockets, and then also where it will actually stay better and not lift or pop up. Now, I don't like these small lamps. I think I mentioned that in my previous video, because if you put your finger in this way, see how it's twisted? That nail tip is going to come out crooked. And the way that you want to do this is always kind of go straight in, because this way it gives you where you're able to allow that tip to go in straight. Because when that gel starts to move, the tip will start sliding and the nail will actually come out crooked. Like I told you, or I like to use the bigger lamp. I also like the lamp by KUPA. I think they have like a one that sits on the table, and you can kind of adjust the lamp where it's, it's not this small one. I think those are better. Now, if you get anything, on the skin, just clean it up. I am using a makeup brush. I feel like these, to me, clean up way better, and they're a lot sharper. I am using Swipe to clean up. Next, I kind of wanted to throw this in there. Now, when it comes to applying your tips, make sure that that gel covers the whole nail plate, the whole surface, because if it stops right here, for example, if someone comes to me and I see this, I can automatically know that it's going to lift or pop off. But also there is pressure that is being applied. Do you see that white area? That to me indicates that there was some kind of pressure or force that was on this nail plate, because that gel stopped right in that middle section. So make sure that it's covering the whole nail, because like I said, if it's any pressure wherever that gel stops, if it was halfway and it didn't reach the end of your nail, then it can cause pressure in that area and cause the nail tip to actually lift and pop off. So next, I'm going in and doing the same thing, and this section I am going to let you all finish watching, then I will come back. So the trick that I think that I found to be much easier when it comes to using these small lamp is to, once you apply it, kind of use your other finger to hold that tip with pressure. And once it kind of cures a little bit, then you want to use your other hand to hold the lamp up so that way it can cure. I think that's the best way when you're actually doing it on yourself. I am going to make sure that I cure the nails in the bigger lamp, the UV LED lamp, for 60 seconds. I want to make sure that I'm not creating any type of uncured gel, because if you are having uncured gel, it does create lower durability, which can create cracking, breaking, and lifting, as well as any skin irritation or allergy as well. So next, I'm going in with this tapered ceramic bit. Now, I don't think I ever mentioned, but this bit it can cut you if you're not careful, and you're, not going in the correct direction, or not using the proper amount of pressure. So the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to move my bit going parallel. So it's not going exactly straight in, but I'm going parallel with the direction of the cuticle. I stabilize my finger. That's number one. I'm going to make sure that I'm paying attention to what I need to take off. It is very easy, and I can't stress this enough. It's very easy to, number one, cut someone or cut yourself. It's very easy to take off too much. Once you take off too much, is sometimes is no way of going back, Specifically, I'm referring to the tip. If you take off too much of the tip, that can definitely lead to that nail lifting, because now you have more exposure of your actual nail than, the tip that was once there. Another thing, you can be actually causing your own lifting when it comes to taking off too much product. So and in that instance, I'm referring to, like, for example, if you're using soft gel or acrylic. So if you are taking away way too much, you can definitely be causing your own lifting. So just make sure that you're being mindful of how much you're taking down, what you need to take down, and watching out for certain areas. You can also take off too much skin. Like, you want to make sure that your bit is hitting the product or whatever you're trying to take off or take down, because you don't want that bit to be touching that skin, because, like I said, the skin around the cuticle area or the fingers, especially the cuticle, is like very delicate and thin. So you can easily take away too much of that skin. So always have a clear vision of what you are taking off. Next, I'm going in with my file. This is a 180 grit file. Now, also, one thing I will say is this is medium square, so I am going to keep it a square shape. And the way that you want to do this is follow the natural nail, so making sure it's the same width as that. But if you want a tapered square, you're going to slightly make it more coming in more, and make sure that the edges are straight, and also have, still with the pointy corners. So I'm making sure to push that skin back so that I don't cut myself. You always want to make sure that your file is not, really sharp. You can etch your file so that it doesn't, it's not like, especially if it's brand new. So I am going to make sure that file is straight, because you always want to pay attention to how you're holding the file. It's easy to have it going all wobbly and crooked, but always make sure that it's straight, especially depending on the shape that you're doing, because again, it's easy to make it come out crooked, like how you hold that file. And I'll show you on one of the nails how it did become crooked and how I actually fixed that. And I'm also paying attention to the side walls, making sure that everything lines up. There's actually 2 points that you want to make sure that you hit. And again, this goes back to depending on the shape that you're doing. But the 2 areas that you want to focus on is like the body and also the actual tip part, which is the end part of that nail. Here I am going to make sure that I turn it. If you are in the wrong direction, it can, like I said, cause it to shift and become crooked. And this is one of the fingers, which is a good example of actually where I'm actually showing that. And you'll see that in a second. The biggest thing that I can't stress enough is if you want a crisp shape, like crispy like some chicken, make sure that you get a file that is 80/80. I feel like these files definitely make the shape crispy. Now, one thing I'll say I forgot to mention is that depending on the tips that you use, for example, if you're doing acrylic, definitely 80/80 for crispy. If you're using these softer tips, like these ones that I told you that really don't have much durability, you probably can get away with 180 to make it crisp, because you can't easily take away too much. Now, I'm gonna come back to that, but this is where I was saying how that tip became crooked on the left side, and you can see that. So I had to kind of pay attention and look to how I was holding that file. Like I said, how you hold the file makes all the difference in the world. You know, it's easy to hold it crooked and not know, you know, so always pay attention to how the shape is coming out. And this is why you have to constantly keep moving from one side to the other and just pay attention. So you can see here how I actually fixed that tip, and it was crooked on that left side. Next, I'm going in with a medium sanding band. And again, my speed is going to be on 3 RPMs. I'm removing the shine from these tips so that when I get ready to apply the gel polish, it has something to actually adhere to, and also it's not peeling or chipping or lifting within days, because gel does need that texturized texture to the nail. Now, going back to what I was saying really quickly, when it comes to the files that you use, they do make a difference when it comes to shaping the nails. And then, like I said, how you hold that file does make the difference as well, because I think, you know, especially depending on the shape, like I said, and especially like stilettos, like you definitely have to hold your file straight in a certain way, because again, it can easily be leaning and crooked on one side versus the other. So here I am going to also shape the nail with my e-file as well to get it, you know, if I miss any areas, you can also use your e-file as well to do that as well. And again, when I'm filing, it does look like I'm going back and forth, but I'm not. I'm actually lifting my bit up, so this can prevent, you know, heat. And also, again, I am moving that bit in the direction that I need. I'm moving my finger in the direction. So this just all definitely helps you to prevent any type of damage to the nail. And another thing that I do want to point out is, you know, when it comes to using your e-file, like I said, focus on the area that you're trying to take or, you know, get to. It's really, really easy, and I didn't know this in the beginning, but it's really, really easy to take away so much, even if you're not putting a lot of pressure, even if you're using the finest bit, like you can literally take off too much. Or like I said, you can take off, if you are putting that bit so much on the skin, you can literally take off so much of that skin. And again, you can start exposing the sidewalls, you know, it just all types of damage when it comes to someone's actual nail bed. And you know, you can cause the nail plate and the nail bed to be separated or lifted. So here I am going to let you all finish watching, then I'll come back. Next, I'm going in with my Makartt brush, and I'm going to do this like a spring summer design. Now, when it comes to doing petals, I feel like, I don't know what it is, but it's something about it. It's not that it's like too difficult, but it's the placement. When you're doing petals, I don't know why, but for some reason when it comes to petals, I kind of struggle with doing petals more so like leaves or rose. Those are different. When it comes to doing petals, petals are one of those things where you have to make sure that they're proportionate with each other, or one can look as though it's crooked or leaning, or it just won't look right. So for me, it's the proportion, you know, because really the petals resemble, think of like teardrops, you know, they're similar to that, but it's all about the placement. And I think that's the hardest part about it. I am also using Madam Glam's gel polish. I think you all seen this in the last video. But again, I wanted to show these short nails. And I am doing a French design on 2 of the nails. When you are doing nail art, make sure that you don't have, specifically if you're using gel polish, make sure that you don't have a lot on your brush, because it can bulk up, especially on the sides. And if it does that, just move that gel polish around. You know, but you have to make sure you wipe off your brush before you do that. You can also take your nail art brush and kind of move that gel downward as well, so that it can get off the tips, because we want to keep the shape. So you can do that as well. I just always move the gel polish. You can also turn your finger upside down so that gravity can move that gel more towards the center portion, back to the center and off of the sides. This does help as well. And once I finish the design and also putting the top coat, I'm going to cure everything for 60 seconds. I don't think I shared of how to actually do the flowers, but I think the petals, but I think I found it easier to actually put down the rhinestone and then use your dotting tool with gel, and then kind of place them almost like clockwise, and then use your brush to line them, like drag the brush, but you have to do it very lightly, and then go back around to fill in the areas. Also, one thing when it comes to actually reviewing products, I'm going to give my honest feedback, and I will never sit here and try to, you know, say, hey, yeah, this product is good, even though I know it's not. So I'm always going to, because I have a lot of integrity, you know, I'm not going to share something and rave about it and I know it's not a good product. I would rather let you know what you may have to look out for, or when you use the product, how you may have to adjust to certain things. To me, you know, when I used it, I'm also going to share, you know, things that maybe I struggle with, and certain things that you may have to do in order to use the product. So I just rather be honest and let you know beforehand. I did add a few rhinestones to the petals. I am using the gel, the Rhinestone Gel by this Betty Core. I'm going to see how it actually holds up. Like I said, I do like the bottle that it actually comes in, but I don't know about how it holds up. And like I mentioned to you all, when it comes to using any type of tips, every tip is going to be different each time. I wish the sizing was the same with everything, but it's definitely not. So this is how the nails came out. If there's anything that I missed or anything that you all struggle with when it comes to applying your tips or application or shaping or the cuticle or those things, you know, definitely let me know down in the comments. Thank you to those of you who are commenting or liking the videos and watching the videos and even sharing where you may find certain products.